Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar. Today we are focusing on engineering apprenticeships. My name is Jodie, I'm from the Solent Apprenticeship Hub. We are an apprenticeship hub that's been put together essentially to provide impartial advice and guidance to individuals and employers around all things apprenticeships. Today I'm joined by Phil Brooke from Peter. He's going to take you through the main content of these slides, and then there'll be a huge opportunity at the end to ask any specific questions that you've got that you want to ask. No question is too small or too silly, because if they are, I'll probably ask them. A few little bits of housekeeping. Please put all your questions in the Q&A section, which will be at the side of your screen. Red little dots just come up now. We are all working from home, so please bear with us if there is any internet issues, or if you hear a random dog barking or a child crying, please ignore it, because we will. I'm now going to pass over to Phil and he'll take you through the content. Phil, over to you.
Thanks, Jodie. Hi, my name's Phil Brooke. I'm from Peter Training, which is a local training provider. We specialise in engineering, ICT and admin apprenticeships. Today I've been asked to talk about engineering, which is my background, and also the area of specialism within the business that I'm working at the moment. I was asked to kind of outline what engineering is to begin with. It's a scientific and technology, mathematics dependent area which generally involves sort of taking understanding of the natural world and using it to sort of invent, design, build, make or repair things to solve problems and achieve practical goals. Crudely speaking, there are 5 occupational areas. You've got mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, industrial engineering, chemical engineering and civil engineering. I had a look at some data before I came on to do this presentation, and the last data that I could find was it said that £406 billion is contributed towards GDP by engineering in this country. So it's around 27.1% of GDP. So the other thing is that might be worth bearing in mind if you're interested in becoming an engineer is that the sector needs around about 190,000 people to join it as a new recruit every single year. I was asked to kind of talk about the kind of employers that work in that are in this industry. What I would say is that, you know, engineering in the world that I work in is mainly sort of dominated by automotive, industrial organisations, aerospace, quite a lot of power supply and utilities building businesses, and also the armed forces. I put a load of them in that word cloud there. Obviously the big, I try to focus on the larger companies because they're more visible to everybody. You can see there's quite a lot of household names there. Some of the ones you might not have heard of, Safran are a helicopter engineer manufacturer, and also just to put name check a couple of businesses that we work with in the local area, Portsmouth Water, Eaton, and also Safran Helicopters. If you're looking at apprenticeships across the board in engineering, there are programs that are available from level 2 to level 7. The main bulk of the programs are at level 3, but there are also opportunities at level 4, 6 and 7. The entry level 2 is more for people who are like operators. To break it down crudely, level 2 is like people who are being told what to do. Level 3 are people who are autonomous and can do the work themselves. Level 4 would be leading, level 6 would be managing, and level 7 would be top of the tree technical experts. If you're looking at apprenticeships, the level of the apprenticeship will be dictated by the employer and the role that's available. So when you're looking for apprenticeships, you need to align your aspirations to what's actually being offered by the employer. If you look at apprenticeships, an apprenticeship in the round, crudely speaking, it's broken up into 3 different phases. There's a foundation phase of training, which is normally in a formal environment, being provided by a training provider like ourselves, and that's generally, it could be 1 day a week away from the workplace, or sometimes we run block release programs for people. After you complete your foundation training, you go into what's known as the development phase, And that's where you're now starting to learn from experience and working more with the people that are supporting you in the workplace to make you become autonomous and competent. The third phase of any apprenticeship now, of the new apprenticeship standards, is that you go through what's known as independent endpoint assessment. And that's a third-party organisation coming into your business, seeing you work, making sure you know what you're doing, and also interviewing you and maybe asking you some questions as well to make sure you know what you're doing. The two columns that are beneath the coloured blocks, craft and technical apprenticeships, if you that's the breakaway point for most apprenticeships in the first instance. You need to decide whether you want to do a role where you're working hands-on, the job is skill orientated, or whether you want to do a job which is more hands-off and more knowledge-based. Now, obviously, the entry criteria for those types of apprenticeships is slightly different. What I would say is that the academic success which is expected of applicants is a little higher when you talk about technical apprenticeships. But in my experience, there are a lot of craft apprentices who migrate into technical roles later in their career, and there are some technical apprentices who decide that they want to do a craft role after they finish their apprenticeship anyway. If you think about craft apprenticeships, generally they go across the three main disciplines that are in engineering, which are electrical, mechanical and electronics. And beneath that sit a whole raft of roles across those disciplines. It could be manufacturing, that's building things with your hands. It could be fitting, which is assembling things that are very technical. It could be installing things like electrical assets or mechanical assets in the workplace. There are a great variety of maintenance roles. They can be in production environments, or they could be in field-based environments. And the one that stands alone is welding. The welding that we do tends to be technical welding, and we'll cover that in a little bit more detail later on. You can see from the names of the roles in the technical section is that they're now not talking about specifically doing things. It's more technical roles, it's more knowledge based, it's stuff like product design, that's taking things from concept to a point where they can be manufactured. Project engineering can be managing a small team and taking maybe a process from we need to buy some machines so that we can make these things to a point where they're actually producing components. Production engineering is more about looking at processes and seeing how they can be improved. But there are also roles in inspection and quality assurance. What I would say is about technical type apprenticeships is that they've got a steeper trajectory of people moving on into sort of management roles and leadership roles. If you think specifically about the kinds of apprenticeships that are available, the foundation training, which is the formal training with the provider, the duration will vary. In my experience, typically it varies from between 12 to 18 months. The longer durations tend to be the day release programs, because you're available to the employer, to us for less time to train. But we also do block release programs, which are like you spending 6 months solid away from the workplace learning. They tend to have more content, and maybe the people that are on the block programs work for maybe larger companies that can afford to lose them for that length of time. The shorter programs tend to be the maintenance programs, because they're very, very focused on the disciplines that have to be achieved. You'll see as well on the grey circle that functional skills and behaviours also have to be delivered or monitored and evidenced. If your maths and English grades were below a level 4 or a C, there's an expectation that the training provider will deliver what's known as a functional skill, which is an equivalent to the GCSE within apprenticeship world. If we look at the training that's delivered by, in this instance, Peter, the foundation training always starts with you learning how to work safely, how to interpret technical information in the disciplines that you'll be working in, and also learning how to work as part of a team and also perform individually. The first program I'll give a little bit more detail to There's a family of apprenticeships which come under the advanced manufacturing banner. They are technical apprenticeships, they're manufacturing apprenticeships, and they're also design apprenticeships. And within that apprenticeship family, there are different pathways. The advanced manufacturing CNC and toolmaking program that we run is aimed at people who'll be going into subcontract businesses or large manufacturers and toolmaking businesses. I'll just give a brief explanation of what toolmaking is. Toolmaking is not making knives and forks, it's making press tools, and it's making injection mold tools. So if you look at the computer that you may be watching this on, or the water cooler in your workplace, all of those plastic items have to have a large metal tool made to form them. So that's tool making. It's a very complex and very technical branch of CNC machining. What we teach in the first instance is always learning how to use manual machines, because they're more robust, so that if anything goes wrong, they're cheaper to fix. But also the principles of how they work shows you how CNC machines work when you progress into that area. If you've never heard of milling and turning before, CNC mills make square things and CNC lathes make round things. There's a lot of variety within that, but crudely speaking, that is what they do. Truthfully, in the modern workplace, mostly all of the machines are CNC mills and CNC lathes. How they're programmed is normally into the machine tool, or you can also use CAD/CAM, which is computer-aided design, to design things and create programs electronically before you load them into the machinery. The other thing that we deliver as part of these programs is conducting business improvement techniques. So you learn some of the terminology that's in a lot of these workplaces that are very lean and very business improvement technique orientated, words like Kaizen and that kind of thing. When people say, oh, we're going to do a Kaizen activity, you'll also know what that is. The Advanced Manufacturing Technician and Design pathway has got far more content. A lot of the people who follow this pathway will be looking to design mechanical or electrical or both items, so they need to learn a raft of skills. The kinds of things that we teach in this program is that we teach maintenance as a skill, because that includes problem solving, but you'd be working on electrical equipment, mechanical equipment, you do a little bit of electronic assembly and testing as well. You learn how to weld, that's a thermal process of joining materials. You will also learn how to use CAD, that's 2D, and when you go onto your level 3 program, it'll be 3D, and you'll do a little bit of general machining and fitting, which is using the mills and lathes that we mentioned earlier, but also some drilling, filing, and all those kinds of things. And the other thing that's attached to this program is conducting business improvement techniques again. The maintenance and fitter standards are very focused on outcomes. So you still get the health and safety, the use in technical information, and also the working efficiently units, but you'll now learn how to maintain electrical equipment, maintain mechanical equipment, and also do hand fitting. So you can see that there's less content, but it's very, very relevant to the kinds of roles that are in the maintenance industry. Welding is a skill apart, and quite a lot of the people that we deliver maintenance apprenticeships request that we also deliver welding skills to their apprentices. Welding is a thermal process where you join metals and make strong joints. Just to break down some of the terminology there, MIG welding, if you see people who are repairing cars and they've got a torch, or they're doing welding, structural welding, a wire comes out of a torch, it's heated up, there's a gas shield, and you make a strong joint. TIG welding is the technical arm of the welding sort of family of skills. Tungsten inert gas welding tends to be very fine work, is very precise, and it's also considered the top skill amongst the three welding branches that we've got there. TIG welding tends to be nuclear welding, could be pressure vessels, and quite a lot of pharmaceutical applications also insist on TIG welding. Using manual metal arc welding is when you see a James Bond film and there's big sparks in the background, that tends to be manual metal arc. Produces a lot of light. It tends to be the sort of welding you'd see on a building site, but it's also used in some technical applications to fill welds when there's a lot of material that needs to go into a weld. When we deliver our apprenticeship programs in welding, the foundation training will include all of those skills. Tends to be you'll focus on 2 when you move on to a level 3 program. The development program for all apprenticeships becomes more reliant on the employer supporting you and giving you opportunity in the workplace. Generally, this is about now becoming competent and evidence gathering. Just to reflect back to the start, from day one, all apprenticeship providers should be assigning you an assessor who you meet on your first day, and they come and review you every 6 weekly to make sure that things are going well. When they have those reviews with you, they'll also be getting input from the employer to make sure that your view of the world is the same as their view, and make sure that everyone's happy that it's going in the right direction. Some of the apprenticeships require the delivery of a competence-based qualification. That's you producing evidence that you can actually do the job. Some of them, they may have been agreed with the employer. Using old language, it's an NVQ, but that's somebody assessing you in the workplace, making sure you're occupationally competent and enabling you to produce a showcase portfolio that can be used at EPA. Most of the level 3 programs that we deliver require a technical certificate at level 3. Some of them would have agreed with the employer to deliver a technical certificate at level 3. Typically, the technical certificate will be BTEC, or it could be an EL diploma. That means that you'll be doing a qualification which is engineering based at the level of A levels. And if you get the right grades, a BTEC will typically be worth 3 A levels, which then potentially will give you the opportunity to go on to do further learning in higher education afterwards. What does happen at the end of the program is that your functional skills and behaviours get measured, and then you go through what's known as a gateway, which is your provider sitting down with your employer and saying, okay, you're ready to go through an endpoint assessment, and then the third-party organisation will come in and conduct the assessments and testing that's required within the apprenticeship standard that you're sitting. Typically, there's going to be some competence-based assessment, could be an observation. There will be an examination of a showcase portfolio that you put together. There will normally be an interview and also some kind of test of your knowledge as well. And that could be an online multiple choice type assessment. If you're interested in apprenticeships and you don't know where to look, the main portal that all apprenticeship providers should be posting their adverts on is the .gov website. If you go onto the .gov website and put find an apprenticeship, you should be able to look and find what you're looking for. What I would say is that the search engine isn't the greatest. Use loose wording. So if you're interested in mechanical engineering, just write mechanical engineering. Don't write mechanical engineering in pharmaceuticals, because nothing will come up. The other thing is that an apprenticeship is a job. So after you've completed your application, there will inevitably be some kind of initial interviews by the providers, some kind of aptitude testing, and gathering of information to make sure that you're suitable for an apprenticeship. And parts of that information will be passed on to the employer for them to make a decision as to whether they want to interview you. But first and foremost, an apprenticeship is a job. So unlike your experience at school or college, this is all about the employer in the first instance and not about you as an individual. If I just talk a little bit about Peter, we are a Portsmouth-based engineering training association. We've been in business for about 50 years. We've currently got an Ofsted Grade 2. We're hoping for a 1 when we're coming to scope for our next Ofsted inspection. We're already accredited by the Institute of Engineering Technology and also a Mechanical Engineering Institution. And we work with a number of organisations, including Pearson, Sitting Guilds, EAL, and a company called Tuvnord, who do our welding assessments for us. And that is it. There's a little bit of a trot, but hopefully I managed to give everyone the information they needed. I'm waiting for Jodie.
to ask any questions you've got. There's a Q&A section, and I'll ask Phil for that information when it comes across. Just a little reminder while you're getting those on. We're here, emails there. If you want some one-to-one advice and guidance, you want some support, whether that be around engineering or actually anything around apprenticeship, please do just look online, search us up, Solent Apprenticeship Hub, contact us on the website, and we will come back to you through whatever means you would prefer, whether that be email, phone call, Zoom, however we can help and support you. And right, Phil, the questions are flying in.
Oh no.
Right, first one is, what questions am I likely to be asked at an engineering apprenticeship interview? Is it likely to be anything technical?
I think it's completely employer dependent. What they will be looking for is if somebody asks you what you're interested, what you enjoyed at school, don't talk about PE and geography. They want you to say words like sciences and maths. I don't think any employer is expecting you to be an expert, but what they will expect you to do is to have done a little bit of research on the company and have an idea about what they do and what's involved in the role that they've got on offer.
Lovely. Is there a way that I could have a taster of the different types of engineering role to help me decide which course to proceed with?
I think that depends where you are in your life. If you are still at school, a lot of engineering providers offer taster days. I think that if you go through a selection process, you'll get a show and tell of anybody's training facility, which give you an idea. If you've left school and college, then I think it's a little bit more difficult to organise that. I think probably the best way would be to approach employers themselves and say, can I come and get some work experience with you?
Lovely. How many types of engineering apprenticeships are there, Phil?
There's a lot. The programs that we deliver 10 different disciplines. So it covers, and some of them are quite generic, but generally in manufacturing, there's fitting, design, CNC machining, tool making, there's welding. We do technical support, which covers a multitude of sins, and we deliver a number of level 2 options, which are fairly generic as well. But then if you go look at the wider vista, there's engineering roles which are construction related, and there are engineering roles that are civil engineering related. So the honest answer is lots more than I can mention, but I would say within my world there are 10 or 15 pathways that you could choose.
There are a significant number in so many different areas, isn't there, across so many different types of employers, everything from the NHS to Airbus and pretty much everything in between. So, if you're interested in a specific type of engineering, certainly worth going online, Googling who delivers it in the area, and perhaps going to ask them a few questions. Right, next question. Can Peter help me find an employer, Phil?
Yes. What I would say is the way generally how most apprenticeships are advertised is you'd apply it on the .gov website or on the provider's website, but the next stage is always you get routed into the provider to do some initial assessment. If you want to get started, if you go on Peter's website, if you press the apprenticeships button and there's an apply now option, you can apply without knowing what you want to do. When you get pulled into the centre, or everything's being done remotely at the moment, we can talk about career options and the kinds of things that you consider doing then.
Amazing. Another one, would you say engineering is a harder apprenticeship field to get into than others?
I think the expectations of employers are probably higher. I think that there's an expectation that you will have achieved a decent math score, and they'll be looking more at your interests as well. So if, for instance, you like restoring motorbikes at the weekend and you're going for maintenance opportunities, that's going to make you stand out from the crowd to these employers. They're expecting buy-in because generally the engineering programs are longer, therefore their investment of time and money in you to be a success is higher. And I think every time you put those two factors in, the expectations of the entry behaviour are also going to be higher as well.
Yeah, that's fair. And it probably leads on quite nicely to our next question. I don't have any science GCSEs. Does this rule me out for an engineering apprenticeship?
No.
Excellent. You're not going to expand on that point. I think
I would say that we've got people. I'll give an example, which maybe will reassure this person. One of the most successful apprentices we've currently got in program is working for a company called Veolia, and it's a lady. I won't name her. And when she came to Peter, she just completed her A levels in music. So, and she was the first choice of the business when they interviewed her. And her career there's been a fantastic success up to this point. I mean, she'll be going for EPA in a year's time. And I would say probably just someone like that immediately springs to mind. No real technical background. Her GCSEs were in similar sort of performing arts type activities. And then she swerved into engineering.
I love that. Moving on to the next question. Do I need to complete a level 2 course before I can begin a level 3?
No. What I would say is that when you look at apprenticeships, some of them will be level 2. So that will be the learning that will be delivered. The level 3 programs have got the level 2 foundation phase in them. So the formal training as the front end is level 2. And so that is irrespective of your prior learning. Some of the people that apply for apprenticeships will already have a BTEC at level 3. However, a BTEC is not a skills-based qualification, and what employers want are skills. So we've got people who, I think probably there's about 50% of the block program this year had BTECs at level 3, and they sat through a level 2 skills program to kick off their apprenticeship. We need to make sure everyone's starting from the same base.
Absolutely. Another question, what are some of the big companies locally that offer apprenticeships, Phil?
Biggest employers locally, engineering, PAL Europe, BAE, Eaton, H&S Aviation, Safran as well. Quite a lot of the engineering employers now are smaller, or they're part of a larger organisation. So Safran Helicopters, I think there's 200 people on site there, but it's part of a multi-billion-pound international business. Whereas Eaton, they've got 3 sites in the immediate area, employing about 12 to 1,500 people.
Lots of choice out there, Phil, isn't there?
There is, and there's lots of opportunity. There is a massive variety. I think the things that I didn't mention is engineering isn't a dirty job anymore. Almost all of the jobs require some kind of computer skills, and also some degree of computer literacy, but also the trajectory for most of these people is a steep one, even craft apprentices. I was talking to Portsmouth Water recently, and the apprentice that is now managing the mechanical and electrical maintenance team is an apprentice that I started there 12 years ago. So in his time there, he's gone from being a level 3 apprentice, he did his HNC, he did a degree in business management, and now manages their M&E department. So, and that case is repeated in a number of businesses that I work with.
Yeah. I think engineering's got such a history of offering apprenticeships that there is no ceiling really for an apprentice. So you won't work your way up to technical and that'll be where you're at. Certainly,
exactly.
Numerous businesses, those in the very top positions are ex-apprentices, because that's a natural way they've been recruiting for years and years. Right, couple more for you, Phil. Typical salary for an engineering apprentice, would you say?
Interesting. Again, it'll be completely, it'll vary across the board. What I would say is that salaries in engineering tend to be higher than less technical disciplines. I would say by the time that you finish your apprenticeship, most of the roles will be offering sort of 25 to 30k, and that's the kicking off point. There is an expectation in quite a lot of engineering that you be working extra time, which you get paid for. I'm just trying to remember one of the ones that impressed me the most. There's a local welding company that we work with, where their welders, and this isn't power by the way, earn £50 an hour. So that's quite a lot of money for a very hands-on role.
Absolutely. And that almost reflects the amount of commitment those employers expect from their apprentices, because what's the typical length of an apprenticeship in engineering, Phil?
Level 3 apprenticeships vary in duration, generally from about 36 months to 42 months.
So
the level 2 options are a little shorter.
Yeah. So you're looking at least 3 years realistically of your life, aren't you, to do that apprenticeship?
Yeah, and I don't think that's the real cost. The real cost for the employer is the people that they put with the apprentice that allow them to learn in the workplace, who are then not doing their job. So, and the day release always seems like a big deal at the front end, but in the middle of the time, it's then putting resources to allow learning to happen in the workplace, which is the real cost.
Yeah, that's fair enough. One other question is, how has coronavirus affected the engineering apprenticeships?
Like all areas of the economy, it is. There's some businesses where the apprentices are still working as per normal. So a couple of businesses, I would say 80% of their staff have been furloughed, and it's a very, very mixed picture. The ones that are working are struggling because people are self-isolating, and there are other businesses that are having to furlough people because there's not a lot of demand for their products at the moment. But the expectation is that by sort of September time, October time, some degree of normality will have sort of re-established itself.
Yeah, and probably what's worth saying is, for all apprenticeship vacancies, not just engineering, if you go onto the .gov.uk website, just search on there, find an apprenticeship, all of the vacancies locally will appear, and you can search by postcode, by the radius from your home address, whatever, keywords, whatever you need to search for. As Phil said, it's not the most sophisticated search engine, but it will get you where you need to go. All 99% of the apprenticeship vacancies that exist within the area tend to be there. So if you've got an interest as a result of this, or had an interest anyway, in engineering or any other apprenticeship, first port of call should always be there. And I think throughout this, there's been in the local area, so I'm sort of talking Portsmouth, Southampton, New Forest, Isle of Wight, there's always been a steady sort of 250 vacancies on there at any one time. Now, that's lower than normal, but we are starting to see employers opening back up. We are starting to see employers certainly expressing an interest now on recruiting. So there is no harm in prepping a CV, getting your application A1. Any investment in time made now, perhaps while there's not the ideal opportunity for you out there, will only pay dividends in the long run. Right, Phil, I think that draws us to the end of our questions.
Well, I was expecting more of a grilling.
See, you got away lightly. What I would say, again, to reiterate, if you need some more advice, if you need some more help and guidance, there are local providers in the area who will absolutely help and support you. Of course, the Apprenticeship Hub is here to help as well. Anything specific, if you want to talk about your circumstances, please just let us know. Next week, we are doing health and social care on Tuesday and something else on Thursday that has escaped my mind. I think it's manufacturing, but it is all over our social media. Any questions, queries, pop to the website. But apart from that, thank you, Phil, for your time today. We really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay then, cheers. Bye.